Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a deeply emotional cross-cultural phenomenon, what we in English call dog crying, or as it's known in Hindi, kutte ka rona. Kutte ka rona. It's a sound and really a sight that instantly pulls at our heartstrings no matter where you are in the world. We are going to decode these moments of distress, basically setting aside the myths to figure out what our companions are actually trying to tell us. We'll be moving all the way from the physical tears in their eyes to how cutting-edge AI is literally translating their voices. It's going to be a fascinating journey. Okay, let's dive into this. Do dogs really cry? I mean, when you look down and see those big, watery eyes staring back at you, are you seeing actual emotional tears of sadness, or is it something else entirely? Now, as humans, we naturally tend to project our own emotional behaviors onto our pets, right? But the science behind a dog's tears is a bit more complex, and honestly, it's absolutely fascinating.
That brings us to section 1, the mystery of dog tears, biological versus emotional.
For decades, there's been a pretty strict debate about why dogs shed tears. The standard veterinary view, and this is supported by experts like Purina, is that a dog cries tears purely as a biological necessity. It's just to lubricate the eyes, flush out allergies, or maybe signal a blocked duct. But actually, scratch that. A recent study published by the National Center for Biotechnology Information flips this entire idea on its head. Researchers found that dogs actually do shed emotional tears, specifically tears of joy. These are driven by surging levels of oxytocin, the love hormone, which literally spike when a dog is reunited with their owner after being away. How amazing is that? Moving right along to section 2, decoding whines and howls, what the sounds mean. So while dogs might shed physical tears of joy, they don't exactly weep from sadness the way we do. Instead, they vocalize. Animal behavior experts have actually identified about 12 common reasons for whining. But to make it easier, we can distill the whole shebang down to 5 critical categories: stress, appeasement, pain, attention, and excitement. By understanding these 5 core pillars, you can quickly identify exactly what your pet is feeling right in the moment. So the crucial point is learning to read the body language that comes with the sound. Take appeasement behavior, for example. This is a very specific type of whining, and it's usually accompanied by folded ears, a tucked tail, crouching, and they might even avoid making eye contact with you. When you see this, it is definitely not misbehavior. It's really just your dog signaling a lack of confidence and making a direct plea for safety and assurance from you. Now, on the completely opposite end of the emotional spectrum is severe stress, like separation anxiety. When a dog feels totally isolated, their vocalizations can escalate out of sheer panic. As noted by the ASPCA, this kind of severe stress often triggers persistent howling, and unfortunately, it can even boil over into destructive physical behaviors. We're talking about digging at doorways or chewing on door frames when they're left home alone. It's tough to see, but it's pure panic. And that leads us to section 3, why dogs cry at night. Age-related causes. Nighttime is quiet, it's isolated, making any kind of vocalization seem much more pronounced and, frankly, confusing for us owners. But it turns out a dog's age drastically changes the underlying reason for this nighttime distress. For puppies, the crying is highly emotional. They're missing their litter mates or just adjusting to a whole new environment. For adult dogs, it's usually more practical. Think digestive issues or maybe a sudden need for a toilet break. But for our senior dogs, the causes almost entirely shift to medical issues, arthritis pain, or cognitive dysfunction. Sometimes this is called sundowning, where the darkness actually causes confusion and anxiety. I really want to emphasize a vital takeaway from veterinary experts right here. Physical pain, like joint stiffness or sudden digestive discomfort, is literally one of the most universally overlooked causes of nighttime crying. A dog might seem perfectly active and happy during the day, but then they cry at night because their movement is suddenly limited, the house temperature drops, and all those daytime distractions that kind of mask their pain are just gone. Let's move to section 4, the AI bark decoder, translating canine sounds. This is where we make an incredibly exciting pivot to cutting-edge machine learning. You might be wondering, why is technology stepping in? Well, because misinterpreting "kutte ka rona," a dog's cry, has serious real-world consequences. When owners don't understand the cry, they often view it simply as a nuisance. And sadly, this leads to harsh, outdated, and frankly inhumane interventions to suppress the barking. Things like using shock collars or even a surgical devocalization procedure called a ventricular correctomy. These methods might address the sound, but they completely ignore the dog's underlying suffering. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how researchers decided to tackle the problem. To find a humane solution, researchers published in the International Journal of Speech and Audiology decided to just stop guessing. Instead, they started analyzing actual audio recordings of barks by using raw spectrogram data. These colorful heat maps you see, those are spectrograms. They literally show us what a dog's cry looks like when it's converted into measurable acoustic data. You are seeing the frequency, the amplitude, and the pitch of their voices visually mapped out over time. It's essentially a visual fingerprint of their bark. And here is the real game changer. When you break down that data, you realize that different emotions have completely distinct visual and acoustic signatures. A lonely cry shows up visually as prolonged barks with really noticeable gaps. Fear, on the other hand, presents as lower-pitched, wave-continuous barks. Pain has a dramatic visual signature, a high initial peak followed immediately by a steep fallback. Meanwhile, a playful bark, that has a mid-range pitch with evenly spaced, repetitive patterns. It's like a secret code suddenly made visible. The researchers took all this incredibly precise acoustic data and trained an Apple Create ML machine learning model with it. The result? A massive 93.2% accuracy rate in identifying these canine emotions. Let that sink in. This is a huge breakthrough. It proves that machine learning can accurately read a dog's feelings just from the acoustic structure of their bark. No more guessing. Let's wrap things up in Section 5, how to help them. Actionable tools. Let's move to and see how this builds into real-world applications. Now that we understand the data behind their cries, how do we actually help them? Well, it builds into a really clear set of steps. Step 1, always rule out medical issues or pain with a vet first, especially if that crying happens at night. Step 2, if the vet clears them, don't reward attention-seeking cries with treats, but, and this is key, never punish them either, because punishment just increases their anxiety. Step 3, establish a consistent routine. Dogs thrive on predictability for sure. Knowing exactly what to expect drastically reduces their overall stress. And this brilliantly illustrates the core message of all the research we've looked at today. To quote the study directly, there is always a reason why they bark that should be understood and addressed. A dog's vocalization is never just background noise. It is always a valid plea for connection, for comfort, or for help. So, the next time your dog looks up at you with those watery eyes or lets out a tiny whine in the middle of the night, pause and really listen. What secret language is your dog trying to share with you right now? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep paying close, empathetic attention to your dog's unique voice. And I'll catch you next time.